3.5 hours. That's how long I lasted before this game made me quit and uninstall, and this is the only MMO I've played that has been so bad I've given up after less than 4 hours. I've played some shockingly bad MMO games in my time, but Dreamscape Dimensions is absolutely undoubtedly one of the worst games ever created. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome! I'm Josh Strife-Hayes, and this is Worst MMO Ever, a show where I play the worst MMO games I can find so you don't have to. Drop a like on the video or sub to the channel for more MMO stuff, ring the bell so you don't miss any future videos, and as usual, a massive thank you to my supporters on Patreon and Twitch who make these videos possible. More on how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. I want to make something very clear before we start this video. I respect the team for what they've been able to create. Most people who say they're making an MMO never actually make anything. They never make it past the ideas stage. These guys at least have something, and I can respect that. Now, Dreamscape Dimensions is actually a multi-user dungeon or mud game that you can head to their website right now and play. So I'm guessing this is a 3D version of a game they've been working on for a while. That being said, there are microtransactions in the game, and I have reason to believe the game might be a cryptocurrency miner because I had to uninstall and remove my security in order to download it. So, I need to judge this game not off your intentions, not off your ideas, not off your passion. I need to judge it entirely off the result, the actual game itself. I don't care how passionate you are about making something, I care about the product you give me and say, this is worth money. So I'm going to be very harsh to this game, but that doesn't mean I respect you as game developers any less for making something. Dreamscapes Dimensions is a free-to-play first-person medieval MMORPG available for download right now on Steam. However, downloading it does cause Avast antivirus to pick up the executable as an extremely risky program, so we'll come back to this later. First off, character creation. It looks basic, but hey, don't judge a book by its cover. But an immediate small issue. You can spin the character model, but the spin direction is opposite of the way you move your mouse, like the model is on a turntable and you're turning the far side of the table, not the near side. Oh, and there's a scroll bar that lets you move the model up and down, but it works by moving the entire overlay screen, and if you do it enough, you can see the in-game world at the bottom and top clip through. I want to make the manliest man that ever manned, so I'm going to play as Chad Thunderhammer, but that name is 2 characters too long, so now we're playing as Chad Thunderham. Real life then calls and I have to log off, but when I try to log back onto the game, I can't. The game just doesn't launch. I add an exception to the firewall, I check the exe, nothing. I uninstall and reinstall through Steam, still nothing. Eventually, and this was probably a dumb idea, but these are the lengths I have to go to for all of you to make these videos, I have to deactivate all my security, re-download from Steam, and then launch it. And that works fine. Now that's probably a pretty big red flag about what's in the exe file. But here's another. Just having this game launched absolutely wrecks my CPU and my RAM. And this is not a super high graphics game, and it's using almost 40% of my CPU. And it's using around 7 GB of RAM right now, but God, we'll look at this later, it gets worse. There are currently 0 players playing, so we'll have the world all to ourselves. Let's begin. Chad Thunderham must first be made, but you've got some sliders, so obviously I slide all of them to max, then you can add horns, and oh, you can change the skin color, and without even trying to, I've made Shrek. Right, I guess this is happening. So you've got 6 main abilities. You may have heard of them before. They are Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma. I've got no idea where they've got those from, but they're really good. But oh look, they've changed the order. Now the reason that Strength, Dex, and Con are with each other in the first place is because they are physical abilities, and Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma are mental traits. But they've got it differently. They've got Strength, Intelligence, Wisdom, Constitution, Dexterity, Charisma for some unknown reason. Mixing around the 6 D&D stats isn't going to make it any less obvious you've just stolen them. The game starts. It's a first-person adventure. If the recording seems laggy, that's because my CPU is now up to 50% use by this program. I'm not going to outright say it's absolutely, definitely, undoubtedly a cryptocurrency miner disguised as a game, because it might just be super badly optimized. But I mean, come on, if it's not mining crypto right now, what the hell is it demanding so much processing power for? The overworld graphics don't look awful. They're all slightly over-textured with colors slightly too saturated, and when I see this wooden log with an icon floating above it, I'm a bit confused. Why is the game so medieval and gritty, but the interaction icon looks like it's from a cutesy mobile game? So I interact with the log, and here's an odd system. Interacting with stuff by left-clicking it brings up a box, but not your cursor. You need to press right-click to activate the cursor, then after interacting with the text box, you have to right-click again to return to gameplay mode. So pressing M opens, of course, it opens the menu. M for menu. Also because this game doesn't have an overworld map. You've got a mini-map in the top right, but no actual world map. With the menu open, let's check the keybinds, see what button does what. Wow. You have 4 keybinds, W, A, S and D. There is nothing else. Now that doesn't mean there aren't other hotkeys, there are, but you can only rebind those 4. Seems the graphics are currently set on low. What would changing them do? Oh, it makes the game lag so hard it almost dies. And on medium, my CPU usage jumps to 70%, and I'm running an i7, and now it's using 15 gigs of RAM. And the recording is lagging even harder. I think we'll stick with low graphics, trust me, you are not missing much. And I really think this game is doing something dodgy in the background. You do not need 15 gigs of RAM. Chat to our first NPC, their text appears slowly and you can't make it faster, but oh, check this out, you can't even look completely down. You can tilt your view forward a bit, but if you look down and run, your hands and stomach clip into the camera. So we've started the game in this bastion building, and one room is full of portals leading to solo dungeons, or raids, or a forest. So these are all procedurally generated adventures. They use a bank of rooms and assets to create a unique experience every time, and we'll examine that a bit more later. Upstairs in the library, we meet Falcarth. He tells us about guilds, but I'm not too bothered about joining a guild right now, so I just mash some keys and see what does what. J opens the journal, but it doesn't show you any available quests. Your journal only records quests you've already done, so it's useless. I opens the item shop, which is connected to Steam and sells you gold, armor, weapons, or player housing materials. It just straight up sells you what you need, no subtlety at all. R opens the skills menu, and you can only train certain skills if you're standing close to a skill trainer. You gain skill points whenever the game feels like giving you some, and putting points into stuff makes you better. There is a magic system, but it's limited to fireball and lightning spells right now, and in a super annoying layout issue, the 3 levels of fireball and lightning spells aren't even in the right order, they're mixed randomly together. The priest class has a single cure light wounds spell, because if we're ripping off D&D, we might as well go the whole hog and steal the spell names as well. But just watch this. This is a small development issue that shows the game hasn't been played or tested enough by the developers. This isn't a, oh wow, that's really specific issue. This is a, how the hell did this make it past the first build issue? There is indeed a scroll bar on the right hand side of this menu, but just watch the standard scroll speed if you scroll the mouse wheel down. I've even included some real life footage to prove this is exactly what happens. So after that agonizing scrolling, I learned some mace skills and spent 25 gold to do a small solo dungeon. They're available from the start, so obviously they're viable from the start, right? The first enemy is literally called Scary Rabbit, but because I can't look all the way down, it's quite hard to target, so I go to attack and... how do I attack? Left click? Nope. E, R, F, no, no, and no. Number 1, enter, spacebar, no. How the hell do I attack? All I succeed in doing is opening the equipment overlay and unequipping my fist. That's right, you can unequip your own hand. So I use the Rune of Recall in my inventory and leave the dungeon. What a great waste of 25 gold. Wander around some more, find a potion shop upstairs, a skill trainer downstairs, and nothing much more of note, so I pop back outside. There's a dude by a rock who offers to teach me mining, because of course this game has to have a complex crafting system, but before I can learn, he needs some skeletons in the northern graveyard kill, but I need to speak to the combat instructor first, and I can find him in the basement. Aha, progress. So back in the main guild building and down the stairs, we meet Thaknor. He explains the basics of combat. You equip a weapon and then... well, then he doesn't actually say what to do, he just says equip a weapon. But he has a quest for me. He needs some weapons delivered from upstairs. He actually says, I've been giving out so many weapons to so many new people. No, you haven't. There are 0 players on. Don't lie about how busy you've been. Pop upstairs, talk to Marv, get some weapons and go back down. We then get given a basic mace and told to equip it, which I do, and now we're told about the arena, a multi-floor training area through the door to the left, so I head on down. The arena is just several identical square rooms connected via stairs filled up with basic enemies, and it is here I discover how combat works. You must left-click on an enemy to target them, or use tab to target them. Then you must press 1, because you can see my mace skill is 1 on the hotbar. However, the game only registers an attack input every 4 or 5 seconds, so you have to hold 1 until it acknowledges it. And then combat happens. Behold combat! You hit the enemy once every few seconds, then they hit you. It's first person, but the character's combat animation clips through the camera. The enemy doesn't have an attack animation most of the time. You cannot move while in combat. If you do, you interrupt the attack cycle and have to hold 1 until it starts again. The enemy dies and they drop a very low poly count model bag of gold, which you pick up by clicking on, but remember how you can't look all the way down, meaning you need to step away from the item to be able to target it. This is awful. The inventory screen shows my mace does 1d6 plus 0 damage, so they're using Dungeons & Dragons combat too, and my 18 strength gives me a plus 3 damage bonus. I level up, which increases my health and stamina, but doesn't actually let me choose anything, and with my new combat abilities, I go take on the skeletons in the graveyard. I noticed there's a yellow highlighted area on the minimap. I'm assuming this is a quest direction, but nothing has told me this. Oh, also you can't jump. And you can't fall either. There's invisible walls around the edge of every single ledge. Your character cannot be in the air in any way. You must be on flat ground at all times. So upon reaching the graveyard, these skeletons are not what I expected. I was thinking thin, sickly, damaged, not armed up chunky boys, but I get killing. Now one major issue here, along with the absolutely atrocious combat, the game has generic music all the way through and no environmental or situational music. For example, I'm locked in a thrilling life and death battle with the living risen dead here while being serenaded by what sounds like a 12-year-old playing a piccolo. Let's just enjoy this moment together, shall we? More combat issues. If there's an enemy right by you and you aim at them and press 1 to attack, you won't, because you need to tab target them first. Even if they're attacking you, you won't retaliate unless you manually target them and then hold down 1. During this fight, a random peacekeeper walks past, followed by a citizen. So, to see what happens, I hit the citizen, and the peacekeeper does nothing. And the chat box lets me know the citizen flees, but they don't change speed, so I just follow her and keep hitting her. I can't kill her though, because she recovers health faster than I can harm her. This exciting chase takes me into the heart of this Germanic-style town with Renaissance-style buildings and market stalls. This isn't really medieval, this is more early Enlightenment period. Then this NPC does something I think we can all understand. He walks into a corner and stares into the darkness. I feel you, random NPC. I feel you. Back at the graveyard, I keep fighting skeletons, and a peacekeeper NPC walks past again and doesn't even help. Do they even have an AI script to follow? Are they just assets that move around? I spend so much time here, the day and night cycle happens, and honestly, it's actually really nice. I even run up the nearby tower to get a look around. The actual level layout and design, the overworld specifically, isn't bad. The land looks large, but you can't leave the confines of the castle or the village, and the distant landmass is just a skybox. But still, it doesn't look awful, does it? It's annoying how you can't drop down off ledges though, and you have to run all the way back to the stairs. Back to the mining tutor, let them know I've killed the skeletons, and they give me a book on how to mine. I read it and now I know. You just click on the stone. Do you want to see some mining? Here you go. It seems I failed. That's fine, I'll just try again. I failed again. Right, well, third time's the charm. Oh, maybe not. So mining is just click and wait, but you can fail. The next yellow dot on the minimap is close by, so I check the journal, see if it's maybe showing us an upcoming quest, and no, the journal really is a list of completed quests. No currently available quests are shown. I just want to point out to any budding game designers the amount of MMO players who go back and reread their quest journal for quests they've already completed is 0. The crafting tutor says her partner stole her tools and we need to hunt him down. They are in a basement just through the graveyard and they give us a key, so off we go. You know, when the day lighting is up, the outside areas look kinda nice. There's a good game here. Somewhere. It's got decent environmental layout and design, it's just the combat, inventory and questing mechanics so far are terrible. So what do you expect this graveyard basement to look like? Did you say giant crystal-filled cavern full of spiders? Because yes, that was a very strange guess and you are correct. I fight my way through the spiders using the tactic of hold down 1 and wait, but if I draw the aggro of 2 or more, I need to run away. Actually, you know what? No, let's see what happens if you die. Oh cool, the world goes grey, then you respawn at the start of the game and you lose experience. Of course you lose experience. Why would any MMO not use that terrific design choice that everyone loves? I've been playing this for around an hour now, and so far it's one of the worst gaming experiences I've ever had. The model clipping when you look down, the typing and slow-paced text scrolling, the extremely saturated textures, the insane 15 gigs of RAM usage. You know, normally when I play these awful MMOs, there's some redeeming feature I can latch onto for my play session, but no, this really is just a horrific experience. I kill a skeleton in the graveyard and the text box shows my city reputation going up by 2 and then my skeleton reputation going down by 2. So you need to manage your reputations within not only the good human city but among the enemy factions. On the other side of the graveyard I find this trapdoor hatch, so I pop down and it's a much harder area with higher level skeletons, so I leave and... Why did I go down a trapdoor but I'm leaving via a regular sized door? Be consistent with your map linking. Back at the main camp, I try and find some armor because I'm taking way too much damage in combat, and while I can wait for my health to refill between each fight, that is slow going. So I stick some training points into heavy armor and then I find 3 armor merchants all standing lined up. I'm guessing it's light, medium and heavy, and I'm right. So I try and buy some heavy armor and nope, that's way out of my price range. So I chat to the armorer trainer, but then I get bored and I walk off in the middle of the conversation. But the conversation overlay stays open, even when I'm gone. You might want to have this automatically close when a player moves away from an NPC. I know some of you are probably thinking, but this is a small team of underfunded, passionate developers. You can't expect them to notice all this stuff, and you know what? That's exactly true. And it's the exact reason a small, inexperienced team of underfunded developers shouldn't try and make an MMO as their first game. You shouldn't expect a small, inexperienced, low-budget team of engineers to build a spaceship, or a small, inexperienced team of filmmakers to produce a massive summer blockbuster. Now, small teams can still produce incredible things, but MMO games are not a good place to start. I go back to the random, procedurally generated dungeon for a bit, and here is my issue with this. Procedural generation sounds fantastic on paper. In reality, it often means a load of similar-looking rooms or assets placed together in a unique fashion, but it's actually an extremely similar design style. Yes, technically, this exact combination and exact layout of rooms has probably never been seen before, but look at it! It's just a collection of square rooms with doors connecting them. Some smashed pots here and there and enemies around. There's no different floors, there's no stairs, there's no story, there's no through lines, there's no designed choke points. It's just a mess of rooms. The fact it's procedurally generated doesn't make it good. I won't finish one dungeon and think, oh, that was amazing, let's go again, and then be completely shocked because it's a new layout. I'll just say, oh, it's this room again, but now it's got 3 pots instead of 2. Kill some enemies, gain some levels, and run randomly around. Again, the music doesn't fit the situation, but thankfully that's taken care of because it just stops playing for a while and I can adventure in ambient silence. I'm waiting for my hit points to recharge between fights because I've run out of potions and buying them is costing me more than it's earning me. Remember the minimap in the top right? Well, you can't resize it, or move it, or even click on it to move, and while it shows enemies as red dots, sometimes it just gets it wrong and leaves a dead enemy showing as alive. Here's a fun time. Some rooms teleport you backwards randomly, but this isn't rubber banding, although we will see that later. This is just teleporting me back a room or two, because it's consistent and completely unexplainable. You just cannot, no matter what you do, walk through this room without being flung back to the previous room. I find some chests and loot them, takes 5 seconds to open them, and because enemies respawn, I'm being attacked all the time. And then there's no take all button. You need to right click to activate the cursor, click the item icons, not the names, the icons specifically, then right click to remove the cursor. This rabbit runs under me and just disappears, clearly fed up with existing in this game. How do I finish a dungeon? What's the goal? Is it to find a mini-boss or to loot a room? So I just sprint around for a while looking for an exit or a boss, and not only do I not find anything, I run into even more teleport rooms. Combined with extreme rubber banding, I'm being thrown around all over the place, and the enemies seem to have unlimited aggro range and chase me the entire way, hitting me every time I get thrown back. Eventually, thankfully, I die and I spawn back outside, so let's avoid the dungeons for a while. I pick up some lightweight armor from the shop because it's better than nothing, and oh, you know what, wow, maybe nothing was better because now I look even more like Shrek, to be fair. And then I return to the arena, the training area by the weapons dude, and I just grind for a while. This was insanely boring. Hit enemy, hold 1, win. Wait for health to refill, repeat. You know what, while we're doing this, let's have a read of some Steam reviews. This game is not playable. It runs at 9 frames per second. There are 0 players online, nothing works, combat is not functional. If there is a feature, it is broken. Steer very clear of this game. Steam needs to implement standards to remove games that are still months, if not years away from even an alpha state. My PC begged me to uninstall. Seriously, it was gonna die on me. Never seen my PC act like that. Game feels like it should be tagged pre-alpha. The game is not intuitive on what to do as a newcomer. If you give it a try, careful what skills you learn, as it will let you purchase both priest and mage spells, thinking I could be a DPS a little and keep myself alive, but won't let you slot both type of spells at once. If you learn any of the crafting skills, which you see the people for first, you won't be able to learn your fighting skills. I wish this developer luck, and who knows, maybe I'll check it out again down the road, but for me in its current state, it's gonna be a hard no. The pay to win is strong with this one. Cash shop to buy gold, equipment and housing. That alone should make you stay far away. Just in case you're tempted, 14 frames per second tops with all settings turned down on a mid-range PC. And in the interest of fairness, here is a positive review. Truly ahead of its time. You know when someone messages me on Discord or Twitter or YouTube and says they're making an MMORPG as their first game? This is exactly the kind of thing I imagine. I'm interested to see what the bottom of this training area looks like, because each floor is tougher and tougher as you go down, so let's find out. So I run down, rubber band pretty badly, but we eventually reach the bottom, and it's a giant crystal cave filled with an illegal mining operation. There are slave miners around, angry foremen and security officers attacking me, and what the hell? How does this make any sense? This cave is massive. Why is the entrance through the combat training area? Why are these lizards squashed and deformed? The photorealistic graphics have been forced to fit inside boxes they don't even fit in. I just run around this whole area and eventually I find a shop I can't even interact with. I click on this trader and nothing happens. Running back, I bump into some intense rubber banding and how are you having a hard time keeping up with me, game? You've only got 1 player to track and you're using 16 of my RAM to do it. Oh, here's an absolutely god-awful design choice. You use endurance to run and walk and attack. And if your endurance drops to 0, you just stop walking until you recover 1 point where you walk for a bit and then stop again. Game designers, no game ever should totally stop you from moving just because your endurance is low. You should always be able to walk, and walking should always restore endurance slowly. Endurance should be used for running. I leave the crystal caverns, eventually, place as a goddamn maze, and I run back through the arena training area and continue with the one quest I have, finding the crafting items. That means going back to the graveyard and back down into the other crystal cave with spiders. While in the cave, I bump into the partner of the crafting person and he explains, okay, right, listen, this is the actual plot. The spiders arrived in the night and stole the crafting tools and the crafting books because they're being mind-controlled by the Spider Queen because she wants to learn about crafting. He then gives me a key to a coffin the Spider Queen keeps all of the crafting books she's stolen in and tells me to kill the spiders to find the tools. Oh, and this text overflows the text box graphic. Maybe work out your response character limit and stick to it, because if using 3 lines instead of 2 makes your text do this, make a bigger box or use less text. Next, I get into a fight with some spiders, and I open the menu while fighting, which lets me see the fight continues even with the menu open. Oh, and you can also see what the combat animation looks like. It actually looks passable. This fight with 3 spiders is awful. I can't run away because I need to push into the cave and the enemies respawn. I can't block. I can't use tactics. It's literally a case of hit one until it dies, move on to the next, while drinking potions. This is the least engaging a combat system could possibly be. I find the tools dropped by the dead spiders, then the crafting scrolls, and then I find the Spider Queen's coffin. It was indeed full of crafting books, and then we fight the Spider Queen, although her attack animation looks like she's just waving at me. And what do you think the Spider Queen drops after I've killed her with my mace? That's right, a single arrow. Finish the quest, and apparently we now have the crafter's partner as a follower. Maybe we'll see what this means later. The next conversation needs me to deliver a message to the dwarves at the Dwarven Mine, but I have no map, no indication of direction, and no yellow highlight area on the minimap. And why does the quest giver look like the lead singer of Smash Mouth? Oh, the grass vibrates when it's windy, so that's a nice feature. Wandering around some more, and I seem to have stumbled into the player-owned housing district, because every indie MMO needs to have shared overworld player housing, because that system has never ever gone wrong before. There are some houses already placed. You can buy houses in the Steam item shop, by the way. They range from £5 to £30, and there are some blue patches not yet claimed. All houses are the same aesthetic and the same stylized design, just bigger. I've discussed the negatives of permanent housing in shared overworlds before, mainly how the early adopters dominate and new players feel unwelcome or unable to achieve the same level of presence in the world, but unless this game improves a plethora of issues, I don't see that being a problem here, because you won't have enough player demand to sell these plots. The rubber banding in the housing district is intense. It's 10 steps forward and 9 steps back every few seconds. Walk up these stone steps onto the battlement and gaze into the distance. There's nothing beyond rolling green fields, so I run all the way along the battlements, which I'm impressed you can actually do. Pop up onto this battlement tower, and I was about to laugh at the tiny brazier in the middle, but then the floor just unloads and I'm left staring into the room below. Run all the way along expecting an Easter egg or a cool new location or something, but no, just a dead end at the end. And oh, you can't drop off. Remember, you can't fall off ledges, so the only way is to run all the way back. And oh, standing on this exact step and looking toward the town makes all the world graphics unload and creates a void of nothingness down below. Running back along the battlement, and I run out of stamina, forcing me to wait, walk, wait, walk, wait, walk. This is dire. This is one of the worst systems I have ever seen. A stamina system that doesn't even let me move. And honestly, I don't want to play this anymore. The combat is unresponsive and boring, graphically dull, tactically empty, and extremely forgettable. The quest journal is a memory diary. You can't jump, you can't drop off ledges. The map connections, such as fighting training area to underground crystal cavern or graveyard to underground crystal cavern, make very little sense. The upgrade system has no real choices to make. The game needs 15 gigs of RAM and is ripping my CPU apart and still stuttering for some reason. This is potential. This is an idea. This is a very rough draft of what maybe, might be, possibly a competent game someday. But the fact they've got an in-game cash shop shows they're prioritizing that over, say, literally everything else. I head off to explore the part of town I've not seen yet, just to see if the graphics change, and this building isn't even medieval. Please, please, please be a placeholder, because this building is post-Enlightenment. What the hell is up with the light rays coming from the windows at random angles? And then the worst thing so far happens. Remember how the peacekeeper in the graveyard didn't acknowledge me when I attacked the woman, and then they didn't help me when I hit the skeleton? Well, when I walk over to have a look at this out-of-place forge-looking thing, I get attacked. So I run, but I'm out of stamina. So I walk, but I can't. So I fight back, but I can't do that either because fighting takes stamina. And every time he hits me, it drains a stamina. So I am forced to stand there, helpless, while this guard kills me for having the audacity to walk a little bit off the main path. Alright, no, 3.5 hours, I am done. This game has had 3.5 hours longer than it deserves, to be honest. This was dire. Again, massive respect to the developer for making something. Most people don't get this far, but this is a perfect example of why your first project shouldn't be an MMO. It would be far better for you to make a smaller game with 2 or 3 really good systems instead of a massive game with 20 or 30 awful ones. No one is going to care you have 5 races and 30 skills and multiple spells and loads of different combat areas if the combat is atrocious and the journal doesn't do anything. This feels like a passion project without the actual game design skill to back up the ambition. This is a perfect example of when the ideas guy tries to design something. This feels like someone reaching and taking on a project way beyond their skill level. I can see what you were trying to be, but I can also clearly see how you've put way too much into a game without slowing down and saying, right, before we add any more, let's make what we've got the best it could possibly be. And if you think I'm being harsh and saying that, oh, it's just an alpha, it's just an early access, you have a cash shop. You expect me, or at least you expect someone, to pay for this. Focus on a smaller but higher quality project before you venture forth into the world of MMOs. I will return to this game if it ever leaves early access, and hopefully it's improved on, well, honestly, everything. Except the day and night cycle ambience with the lighting. That's actually quite nice. To end this review, I normally give a score out of 10, but doing that requires stamina and I'm on 0, so your final review score is just... Cheers for watching! Another massive thank you to my supporters on Patreon and Twitch who make my content possible. You can support the Patreon from only £1 a month. Check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter and Discord, and as always, have a great day.